Hey y'all, come with me today to do Miss.Hannahlong's hair and makeup for a photo shoot. She started the day off on the phone with Brody.
No, Brody.
No, Brody.
Oh, I'm collabing with her. Okay, love you. Bye.
I thought that part was hilarious. So we're going in and we're filling her brows in first, and I'm taking a dark brown brow pomade. I'm sorry y'all, I don't remember the brand because I just keep it in my kit in a little tin. Now we're going and we're carving out the bottom with the e.l.f. Camo Concealer in the shade Fair Warm on a flat concealer brush. And I'm just going to bring it down the rest of her eyelid to prep for eyeshadow. And now, once I've got it all over the lid, I am taking some Wet n Wild Photo Focus translucent powder and just setting it in place. For eyeshadow, I'm going to start with my Madison Beer Morphe palette. And I don't know the shade names, they're not labeled, but it's the 4th shade on the top row and the 5th shade on the 3rd row mixed together all over her lids. And I'm taking my Tartelette in Bloom palette in the shade Leader and just putting it in her outer corners. Now using that same palette, I'm using the shade Funny Girl on the lid and the shade Firecracker to blend the outer corner shade and the lid shade together. Cleaning it up with a makeup wipe before foundation. Okay, this part is probably the most important out of everything that we did with her makeup today. But we are going to do a lot of skin prepping. So I'm going in first with the Glow Recipe Watermelon Glow Pore Tight Toner. And I'm putting that all over her face and bringing it down her neck too. Then on the back of my hand, I mixed together some Revlon Photo Ready Rose Glow Illuminating Primer and some Black Radiance Liquid Radiance Highlighter just to kind of prep the skin before foundation, just to give her a glow from within. Once I've covered her whole face and neck with all of that, I'm going in with the e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer right on her T-zone to cover any texture and pores. Once I'm done prepping her skin, I'm going in with the Maybelline Fit Me Dewy and Smooth Foundation in the shade 230 Natural Buff. To apply her foundation, I'm using a Real Techniques 200 brush. At this point, whenever I was putting her foundation on, I was not liking this shade on her. I just thought that it was a little bit too dark. And the more I put it on, the more I was like, this ain't it.
Bruh.
She looked at herself in the mirror, and I don't know if she really was liking what she saw so far or if she was just pretending, but I was like, Hannah, girl, I'm about to go in and fix this. Please just trust the process because you're looking a little bit crazy right now, but don't worry because it's all going to come together in the end. So then in the same Maybelline Fit Me foundation, I decided to go in with the shade 120 Classic Ivory and kind of backtrack a little bit and fix that mistake because I did not want her out here looking orange. And then, of course, any liquid product that I apply with a brush, I always go in with a damp beauty sponge and just blend it together so that there's no lines or anything. Now using a flat Paul Mitchell concealer / foundation brush, I'm taking the same shade of the e.l.f. Camo Concealer from earlier and just putting it under her eyes, a little bit on her chin, and a little bit on her forehead and nose, just all of the center points of her face where I want some brightness, and I'm blending it in with my sponge. Now I'm going to go in with some cream contour, and I'm using an LA Colors little tiny foundation brush, and I'm using the Makeup Revolution Fast Base Stick Foundation in the shade F13. And I'm going to go in and blend all of that with my sponge, of course. Before I set everything with powder, I did decide to go in and contour her nose a little bit, so I'm using that same shade, going in and applying it with a tiny brush, and then blending it out with my sponge. And I'm also making sure that there's no creases under her eyes before I set with powder. Now for baking all of the places that I put her concealer, I mixed the Wet n Wild Photo Focus translucent powder with some Physicians Formula Mineral Wear loose powder in the shade Translucent Light. Now I'm going in with a Real Techniques 400 brush, and I'm using the Juvia's Place Sahara and Blush Volume 2 palette in the shade Yara to bronze her face and to dust off all of that powder. I'm also using a little bit of that Physicians Formula loose powder and just going all over her neck and chest to make sure that all of the liquid products are set. For blush, I'm going back in with the same Juvia's Place palette and using the shade Lena.
Bombastic side eye. Criminal offensive side eye.
Now for highlight, I did a little bit of a mixture between two products. I used the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Powder in the shade Luminous Light first. And then I went over it and topped it with the Tarte Amazonian Clay Highlighter in the shade Exposed Highlight. And I brought those same two products down all over her chest and neck. Now underneath her eyes, I'm just smoking it out with the Tarte Lit and Bloom palette in the shade Rebel on her lower lash line. In just a second, you guys will see, I had a little bit of a surprise in mind for Hannah. She wanted something like kind of natural with her glam, but to still look very glamorous. So we decided to stay neutral in all of the colors that we used on her eyeshadow and stuff and not to do too much. But I did go in with an inner corner highlight that reflects hot pink. And if you know Hannah, she loves all things pink. So I thought that this would be the perfect thing to add to her look. So this shade actually goes on white and looks like a highlighter. But whenever the light hits it, it reflects hot pink. For her lashes, I went in with the Kiss Pompadour lashes. And once her lashes were glued down, I went back in and smudged out her lash line with the Tarte Lit and Bloom palette in the shade Activist. I really like going in and smudging out the lash line with a dark brown or either black eyeshadow. I have found that this just does a really good job at hiding the lash band and just making it look more natural. Now I'm setting her face and her neck and her chest with the Morphe Luminous Setting Spray. For lips, we didn't do anything too crazy. We wanted to, again, keep it on the natural side and not do too much. So I just went in and lined it with the same cream contour that we used earlier on her face. And on the center, I used the same blush shade that we used. And I topped it with a clear gloss. We put a little bit of mascara on her top lashes to blend with the falsies and on the bottom, and I used the Essence Lash Princess Mascara.
Yes! It looks good.
Is there anything that you don't like or want different?
No.
Camera over here. I'm doing your hair.
People be like, she thinks she cute. She act too bougie. And I do.
Period. So now we are going and doing her hair, and she's got some clip-in extensions for me to put in. So I just went in and teased the hair at the root where I'm going to clip them in. I sprayed a little bit of hairspray, a little bit of heat protectant, and now I'm just going in with my curling iron and doing some loose beachy waves. And of course, Miss Girl wanted some volume, baby. She told me to make her look like Dolly. So that is what we did. I went in and teased it at the root a little bit and covered it up with the rest of her hair. And just kind of played with it until, you know, it was as big as we both wanted it to be. Because you know what they say, the bigger the hair, the closer to the Lord. And baby, we are trying to walk with Jesus.
Ooh, that's good. Ooh, look at all that hair. I feel like Dolly Parton every time I have these in.
Yes. And I gave you a little bit of volume in the back and the sides.
Yes, it looks good.
I'll spray it again. Who is she with that long, beautiful hair, honey? And then, of course, you know the TikTok queen had to make some TikToks. So I got a little behind the scenes. Then, of course, I wanted to get some pictures for me to post. So here I am just zhuzhing her up, letting her pose. And I'm about to show y'all the after pictures. And there she is. She's so pretty. She is literally perfect, y'all. She is so pretty inside and out. If you know Hannah, to know her truly is to love her.